Alrighty. Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Migrating SAP HANA to Azure. I'm Kristen Tanner, Global Marketing Strategist for Protera Technologies, and I will be hosting today's webinar. We appreciate all of you taking time out of your very busy schedules to attend today's educational session. Protera is a leading global hosting and managed services certified SAP partner and Microsoft Gold Cloud Competency Partner. With many Protera customers currently running SAP, SAP HANA, and S/4HANA on Azure today, we hope you find value in today's session as we share our expertise with you. We will be starting the webinar shortly, but first a few housekeeping notes. Only our presenters' phones are live. Your microphones have been muted by default to block any background noise. Our presenters will be answering questions at the conclusion of the webinar. If you have a question at that time, please type it into the Q&A function. If we don't get to your questions during the presentation, I or another member of the Protera team will be sure to follow up with you directly. And lastly, this webinar will be recorded and a link will be made available to all attendees. Now I would like to introduce today's presenter, Patrick Osterhaus, President and Chief Technology Officer for Protera Technologies. Take it away, Patrick.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Thanks for that warm introduction and good overview of today's webinar. The content here today, we're going to be talking about SAP migrations to Azure, utilizing our tool set we've developed called FlexBridge. So we'll go through a little bit of an intro here for Protera, for those who are not familiar with the company, have a few slides on us, and then we'll jump right into the technology we use for doing migrations called FlexBridge. And we'll also give an overview of how we break up the migrations into the pieces of the project. So we'll talk about that in detail. And then we'll finish off the meeting here today talking about our managed services and how that bridges going to cloud and the new technologies SAP has provided with S/4HANA. So to start off with, a little overview of Protera. This year is our 20th anniversary come October. Our headquarters are in Chicago, Illinois. We're based in the United States. We have many, many companies around the world, as well as we have offices around the world. We have a very large service center here in the United States, in our headquarters in Chicago, Illinois, as well as a large service center in Europe, located in Athens, Greece. We have a growing office in India, and we also have many remote offices in many countries, including Asia-Pac and South America. Our services we're going to focus upon today primarily is around FlexBridge, so I'll talk about that in detail. I'd like to focus here on also AppCare, and this is a fully managed SAP portfolio of services that we can provide on-premise or in a cloud of your choice to fully manage the SAP landscape and even peripheral systems like the Office 365 suite or any add-ons for SAP. This comes with fully supported ITIL processes-based service desk, monitoring, backup DR, pretty much the full suite of products, services that we offer on a monthly subscription. We back that up with an SLA on performance of the systems, as well as ticket handling, so response time, and ensuring that your systems are running at the top performance levels. And I'd be remiss to talk about our partnerships here, focusing today on the Azure partnership with Microsoft. We have longstanding experience working with Microsoft technologies going back to 1998 when SAP started with SQL Server and Microsoft Server as a platform for SAP solutions. Been working with Microsoft technologies for all that time, and since the inception of Azure, been running SAP Compute in Azure. So certainly we'll talk about that here in this webinar. And also we have a longstanding partnership with SAP. We have a global partner certification in 6 areas. This involves an audit every 2 years in all of our global locations. SAP make sure that we're following their best practices, make sure that we're following ITIL's best practices, as well as any third-party certifications. And lastly, also want to include our valued partnership with SUSE, key instrument partner in all the technologies SAP provides, especially with HANA and S/4HANA. We have multiple webinars that we've done with SUSE, and these highlight the advantages of running SUSE as an operating system for SAP. Encourage you to take a look at those webinars in detail for advanced scenarios on DR and HA, simplifying those processes, as well as around patching and encryption. So encourage you to take a look at those. So we'll jump into FlexBridge here, and the focus on FlexBridge is our automation services. So we talk about a whole platform. So talk about any source of SAP in any environment. So this can be an on-premise SAP system today, could be a hosted environment, could be an environment that's already in cloud and you want to move it to Azure. We're going to talk about the methods that we employ, the technologies that we use, as well as the methodologies in our projects. We'll talk about that in detail for FlexBridge. So that's our migration platform for getting compute into Azure. And then once it's in Azure, we have, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, our Protera AppCare, which provides our managed services. So this is full suite of services around ITIL processes for running IT for SAP customers. This is for all SAP applications, as you can see, and we do this on an on-demand basis. Monthly subscription provides end-to-end coverage in any environment. So talking about end-to-end lifecycle management, we've been doing this for quite a long time. Since our inception and even before Protera started, we have our team of executives been doing SAP since the early 90s. A lot of experience in doing global rollouts, doing the design for very complicated architectures. And this is coming back into play now that we're seeing a lot of interest in greenfield, new implementations, new installations of S/4HANA. As it was before, and it's been paramount for many years, you have to have proper sizing and have a proper architecture for making sure that we employ best practices that Microsoft for Azure has, as well as SAP, to make sure those systems are built properly as well as fully supported by SAP. And with this design phase, we offer, and we'll talk about this today in the migrations, proof of concept idea that we would do a test run employing those new technologies on Azure for SAP. So highly encourage anyone listen to this webinar, reach out to us. We can get you a good promotion on doing a proof of concept for S4. So after this is design phase, vitally important that we do the migration, have a very good implementation plan and testing plan in place. You'll see this here in the FlexBridge slides, how we accomplish that. Until we get to the optimize, the run phase, as we move our dev and our quality systems and ultimately production into Azure to run S4 or to run HANA, we have to have a certified process to make sure that that runs in tip-top shape. That's where SAP certifications come in, to make sure that we're running SAP as a factory to their certifications. So how we accomplish the migrations going to Azure is with our product FlexBridge. Our big message on FlexBridge is it is one downtime, one migration step. So instead of disconnecting and doing two separate steps of moving to cloud and then moving to an SAP version and upgrade after that, we recommend to do this all in one step. And I'll talk briefly how we accomplish this and some of the ideas behind that in the next few slides. But the big takeaway here is that if we're doing it in less time, obviously there's cost savings, and there is certainly simplification in the processes. And as important, there's less effort involved in the customer for testing, for involvement of the team to make sure that interfaces are all set up properly. Instead of doing it twice, those business processes only have to be verified one time. And we'll talk about the different platforms that we can migrate. Obviously, our target is Azure. What systems can go to Azure is varied and numerous. There's a lot of options, and essentially anything that can be run on premise today can go to the Azure cloud. We have it broken up into three different types of migrations, where you see here is at SAP. You can think of that as non-HANA or Business Suite applications. You have the HANA database, and then you have the S4 HANA application. And we'll talk more in detail on these in a moment. So getting into our methodology, there's many pieces here. The first part we want to start with is doing an assessment. And this is an area that was a key focus for us the last couple of years while we developed FlexBridge. In the past, when we would do an assessment, we would have two of our experts go on site for a couple of weeks, and they would do basically an A to Z inventory of the SAP systems, what software was running on them, all the interfaces, the servers themselves, the software that ran on them, what jobs, what interface, what third-party products communicated to SAP and such. So this inventory would take, exhaustive many hours, dozens of hours to do this, and then analyze the report and give it back to the customer. What we've focused on is doing this technical assessment, automating this portion of the data collection. We knew that this is going to be a lot of interest in going to cloud, to Azure, as well as upgrading to HANA and S4HANA. See this in the marketplace. So we knew there had to be a better way. And that's this first step here, is this readiness assessment, a free technical assessment that we will provide. So I'll show momentarily how we do this, yet this kicks off the efforts and the ideas and the formulation of the plan to move to Azure and to move to S4 or HANA. From this report, then we will do a whiteboarding session with the customer to make sure we understand their IT roadmap. What are the drivers for going to the new technologies? We can give more options here at this juncture. A plan of what systems should move when. Certainly that will be all provided in the whiteboarding. You want to get the customer feedback. Get, again, their IT roadmap, what is the drivers for them, as well as the timing. From this, if S4 is chosen as the approach, we're going to propose to do a deep dive assessment. What the deep dive does is, over a week's time, we provide this remotely. We can provide a detailed analysis of what S4 is going to change in the customer environment. So this focuses upon migrations from Business Suite, going from ECC 6.0 to the latest version, 17.09 of S4HANA. And it will provide analysis in many key areas, and I'll show that in a few slides. Then the next step from this is creating the plan with the customer and proceeding with the pilot. So at this point, we would actually provision an Azure subscription for the customer. We would build out that landscape, and we'd actually start doing a prototype of the migration. So we'd actually do the test run of production, and you would have the system then to play with and see your data on S4, see the new config, see what custom code had to be remediated, and have a system that you could actually test it on. So this period of time could be 2 or 3 months before you'd actually start this production landscape migration. This landscape would take your development system, migrate that over to Azure, and then we would do the same for another test run, another copy of prod, and then we would do prod itself. And then our best practice is, instead of migrating quality, we would actually copy production to quality. So that's all included in that production migration phase. And then after this is the go live and post go live support. So hypercare for the 2 weeks after the migration go live, make sure there's no issues that weren't caught in testing for whatever reason, which we've had a tremendously successful record on catching things in tests. So hypercare has always been quiet, but obviously it's an important service. We want to make sure that things are working as planned. So we provide that for 2 weeks for all of our customers. And then post-go-live support with our app care services is provided. So that's from a high level the methodology we provide for the Azure migrations. As I mentioned, this plan is specifically for S4HANA. If we are doing a different type of migration, I'm going to show you this in the next slide. The steps might be a little simpler, might be a few less. When I talk about these 3 types of migrations, this is exactly what we're talking to. So the 3 categories you can think of is a lift and shift, or the industry also refers to this as is. So this is exactly what it describes. As is moving exactly what you have on premise and putting that into the cloud. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Then we also have the HANA migration. This would be an example of a technical migration, which is changing out the underlying operating system and database, or one of those, to give a technical change on the underlying infrastructure, but keeping the SAP version the same, so you don't have to do all the exhaustive testing. Let's say you always want to do testing, but you won't have to do the exhaustive testing to ensure that business processes are working. So the HANA migration provides taking advantage of analytics in HANA, running in-memory computing, so you get the performance gains, as well as all the additional features HANA provides with IoT and GPS and all these other amazing new features in the platform that HANA provides. Yet you do not do an application upgrade, which requires more time and implementation efforts from your team, which is our last one, and that is the application migration. That's going to S4 This is total transformation of the SAP application, running it in the cloud, migrating to HANA as a database, and also switching the operating system to SUSE to enable all the simplification of system replication, including HA and DR, the encryption options, as well as live patching. So the three different categories, the complexity as we go from left to right gets more complicated. From complexity, we require more time just to remediate the risk. On the top, you can see that the migration demands, and we see this in two categories. There is the alignment with the SAP roadmap, which is the technical and the application transformations. That would be going to HANA as a database platform and going to S/4HANA as the application. And if you aren't aware, S/4HANA utilizes the HANA platform as the database. So S/4HANA includes HANA also. So that's the SAP alignment. You would do either the technical migration or the application migration. Or we also see drivers from increasing IT efficiency and providing all the gains from going to Azure cloud and providing that to your business. So we see the cloud adoption as another driver. So we do see companies still do two steps. We might have a company that would just go to Azure first and then do the SAP upgrade to S4 or to migrate to HANA. Yet we recommend to bundle those. We have a tried and true, very proven process, reduces risk, reduces the time to do that in one step. So the question then becomes, what can be done in one step? There is a few scenarios, not many, but there are a few scenarios that technically restrict a path of just going in one step. And so it's better to show what all can be moved, and then we can see what's the fallout from that. So again, let's start with the simplest, and in this case, it's on the bottom to the lift and shift, the as is. If the source is Intel-based, if it's x86 based for the operating system database, then we can migrate that landscape, those systems in one step. If it's a technical migration, if we're just going to move to HANA, then we're looking at the SAP version specifically. The driver there is SAP NetWeaver version 6.4 or above. And this translates to the business suite as this is going to be ECC version 5 or BW version 7. And then lastly, if you want to go to S/4HANA, that requires SAP NetWeaver version 7 and above. So this translates to ECC 6.0, and you don't have to have any enhancer package. You could have enhancer package 0, which is the base install, and still go to S/4HANA. And then there is another key requirement, and that is that system has to be Unicode to be able to go to S/4HANA. So those two qualifiers are very important to go to S4 directly. And it's a rare thing for us to see Unicode. I think out of the hundreds of migrations we've done, we've seen 2 customers that are not Unicode yet. So probably not a lot of companies out there, but if you're not running Unicode today and still want to go to still running Unicode and want to go to S/4HANA, you have to do that Unicode migration first, which will require an additional weekend. So how we do this very first step, this technical assessment, is we have you register on our website. You're going to go out to that very first step. It's on our website. You'll see it. It's many links go to this landing page. Once you register yourself and we qualify you for the free assessment, we will send you that source code, this ABAP code. We can actually send you the ABAP code, or we'll give you a transport, whatever your preference is. The key thing is we want that to be put in every system of the landscape you wish to migrate. If there's multiple landscapes you wish to migrate, please send us for all those systems in each landscape. With those XML files, there will be one file for each system. You send us those, and then we will generate an automated report. So this report we generate, and then we would like to have a meeting within 3 days, or when it's good for yourself, to be able to talk through this report in detail. So the report is going to go through, as you can see, an executive summary, just a high-level overview of what is required to go to HANA or to S/4HANA. So if you're doing a technical upgrade, we can support that in the report, or if it's an application upgrade, we're going to provide that in the report also. It's going to provide that project plan. It's going to provide a customer solution and a proposed solution for sizing, for what instances, what VMs should run in Azure. And it also is going to provide some details around incompatibilities on software. So the add-ons, things that you're going to have to remediate. We give a sampling of that in this first report. As I mentioned, if you're going to S4, we highly recommend, we're going to have this whiteboarding session. I want to make sure that what you want to get out of your SAP S4 HANA migration and upgrade, you're able to accomplish. And to do that, we would also recommend this deep dive, this 1 week analysis where we go through and are going to provide a more detailed review of the systems. What this provides here is drilling into the business functions that you're running in your current business suite. So this would be the components that SAP has installed, and then looking at the add-ons also. We want to look for incompatibilities or changes that SAP is going to put or redo in S4, or maybe there's no more support for a few. So we are going to identify those and show you where remediation needs to be performed. We'll also focus upon a key area which is very important in S4 HANA, and that is Fiori. If you're not aware, SAP's direction with S4 and future development is all around Fiori and the simplification of the GUI. Ultimately, the SAP GUI will not be supported for S4 HANA, so we want to provide a very good path of what apps you want to run in Fiori, the setup of those, as well as, and this is going to be addressed actually in all of our reports, even the technical assessment which you receive at the beginning, running this front-end server. There's some key attributes and considerations you want to look at when you size and build the front-end server of what software should be running there. So we were going to guide you in not only Fiori, but the front-end server and the GUI access to S4HANA. Within this deep dive, we also are going to provide exact sizing, very, very good estimated. I don't know if it's exact or estimated is the right description, but it's going to be very accurate compared to previous runs and offerings of programs that SAP has for sizing on S4. So we will give you a really accurate prediction of what the size of that system is going to be, which is key, paramount, especially going to Azure, that you have the right VM sized, as well as what systems, what all components you can put on that VM. So it's key that we have that right from the get-go. And then a very important area that we consider for S4HANA is looking at the simplification database. The items, right now that listing is at 250,000 items. What this does is we look at this listing and compare that with all the objects and what has been built out in your environment. And from this, we can identify areas that need remediation and need work for data conversions, as well as functional areas that have to be redone. So that's a key area to identify what is coming next. And then we're looking at the process, the business processes, the analytics, again, analyzing areas that need focus. It'll show you by objects for which each area, estimating the work that's going to be involved, and what's ahead of you for those implementation efforts. And lastly, this is one of the areas that we get the most questions around, is around, I should say, custom code analysis. So looking at your Z and Y objects that you've built, tables, programs, and remediating, identifying what has to be done in your custom objects. Very, very important we analyze that and make sure that that's tested thoroughly before we are going to go into doing the migration for the production landscape. And that's what's so nice about doing that test run. That test run is going to provide, from the deep dive, the object list, and then the customer or Protera can help you with actually the remediation. So if there's ABAP programs that have to be recoded, or if there's redesign that's required in any of those programs, we're going to help you with that from this analysis. So the nice thing is, from this test environment, we have the object, we have a platform that we can fix those objects and then have those as transports when we do the dev migration. So when we have dev done, we can actually have a very good round of testing in another environment for those objects. So for the deep dive, a visual of the areas that we will look at. And this is interactive. Customer can drill into see exactly the business functions. And once you drill in here, you can see compatibility. Scrolling through the list, there's 15 categories shown here. All are compatible, fully supported. We have many customers that have incompatibilities, and then we would provide the guidance if it's not compatible, if there's another product that would do that, or if it's going to come into S4 in a future version, according to SAP's roadmap. Then we have examples around the add-on compatibilities. So you can see a few here that are shown to be unknown. So we would provide guidance on Wind Shuttle, for example, if this is going to be supported for S4, as well as you can see Duet Enterprise, which is provided from Microsoft. It is incompatible with S4HANA. This would be 1709. So we would provide guidance of what the customer should do in this scenario. The Fiori applications, this would be done by category. So you can see in this example, they're all showed for finance. Specifically, we drilled into it. There's 514 total. There's 3 categories, especially around finance, the controller, general ledger, and cost accounting that we would drill into. And you'd actually see these would be the apps that are recommended to be provisioned. So what we would recommend is that these applications get greenlit, get activated, and then we can test those out when we do the dev migration and have those ready throughout the production landscape. So when we finally do prod, you'll have a very good testing environment with the Fiori apps enabled to see your data in S4. And then the listing, as I mentioned, around the simplification list. So this customer had 98 remediation areas that they should review. This listing would provide the SAP note number that's going to provide a summary of the resolution steps that's required for this area. So you can see in here, the first example is BI extractors, where the extractor is not going to be compatible with S4. So the remediation has to be done in this SAP note. So this listing of 98 items would have detailed listing for the applicable next steps that have to be provided. And lastly, as I mentioned, the custom code analysis. So for each custom object that would have an issue that would not be compatible going to S4, this listing is provided for what SAP note number should be used for follow-up. And as you can see, the listing of items for every object that has to get remediated, it's shown here in this report. And then as a summary, looking at the simplification list, this is a high-level overview of what's going to be provided for the categories from that simplification database. As I mentioned, 250,000 entries, that is checked. We will provide guidance of where are those 250,000 entries. There's intersections with the areas that need remediation for S4, and we provided the proper guidance there. And again, provided if it's an SAP note or if it's additional remediations required. So that's our brief overview of S4 deep dive. That summarizes the pre-steps, essentially, those checks to go to S4. Now, if you're going to HANA or you're doing an as-is migration, it's much more simplified. And that approach is going to depend greatly on that source environment. It depends on the OS and database the customer's running. It's going to depend on the SAP system itself, that version. But again, vast majority of cases, as you saw in that previous slide, can be done in one step. And that is our key differentiator on FlexBridge. One-step migrations to reduce costs and reduce the time. So once the migration is complete, the customer's running in Azure, this is where our managed services, our app care comes in to provide a seamless, integrated, total package to run SAP. So as I mentioned at the top of the call, it's a focused ITIL-based service desk, 24/7, follow the sun. We can follow and support any environment. So this would be on-premise, could be a host environment, could be in another cloud today, and obviously in Azure. We will fully support that, and we can provide support not only for SAP, but here's a sampling of a few other applications that we support that are integrated to SAP. Obviously, including the Office 365 product suite, as well as the integration of the Azure platform, Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, integrating that from your Office 365 suite into SAP and truly providing a single sign-on for every application that you have that we manage. So that's a key differentiator, simplifying access, one unified environment for all your users. We can also, through our AppCare platform, provide managed services at your location for non-SAP environments. So this would be, as I mentioned, Active Directory. It can be your file servers. It can be all the other peripheral services that are vital for security. So the antivirus, network management and monitoring, the firewalls, intrusion detection, all the configuration and management of those services we can do at the branch offices, at headquarters, at plants. We cover many locations for our customers, and we can fully manage the backups even at your locations there. So that's, in a nutshell, on one slide, that is AppCare. So getting into our differentiators, we have many unique offerings around FlexBridge and that migration itself. Going back to the founding of our company into the early 90s, even beyond that, we've been working in the SAP space for a long time, coming on 25, almost 30 years for our people. So a lot of experience with SAP, and we find it integral and very important for us to stay in touch with SAP's roadmap. And we're really excited about what SAP's built in S4 and the integration with the other companies that SAP purchased last few years with Concur and Fieldglass. A lot of exciting announcements there, and integration of the solution, for covering all the business processes a customer has. So we're really excited about the SAP offerings and bundling that with the best of Azure and the providing the agile platform to really quickly scale your environment for SAP, to add compute, to quickly snap copies of your environment, to provide a very resilient infrastructure with system replication, and quickly to be able to build another disaster recovery environment around the world, at a moment's notice. So the combination of the technology SAP has provided and the cloud technology from Microsoft Azure, it makes architecting solutions much more cost effective for customers, which at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, is to provide the best solutions for our customers. And so that's our focus, and that's our key differentiator, to bring those decades of experience working with SAP and with Microsoft to provide that value to our customers. Global references. We have many customers that are running on the Azure platform today. We have many that have started with a DR system on-premise. That DR system on-premise replicates to Azure. And again, with all the locations, the regions that Azure provides, it's pretty much the customer's choice of where they want to have that protection. And for those customers that have DR, we have many that then have decided to move to Azure for their production landscape. So all the operational benefits, as I mentioned, the scalability, the agility to be able to add compute very quickly, as well as to be able to build one of the largest scale-up environments, including 20 terabytes now, that will be certified for S/4HANA and for HANA. That's available in Azure. So it's a key differentiator. And I didn't mention this yet. We are a Microsoft Gold Cloud Partner for years, and we are being certified at a higher level. We just performed an audit and passed that, and that's about to come out. So we're very excited to be able to provide new services with that certification. So with that, we can switch it over to our questions and answer period. We have a few that have come through already, so I will first take those, and we'll be respectful of time here, so we'll cap it here at the 5 that we got. So, but if you have more, please write it in, and we'll make sure that we will follow up with you.
Excellent. Thanks, Patrick.
All right, so a few have come in here. Let me go through the first one that came at the beginning, so maybe this got answered. The question is, what can be the source version and type of SAP system that can be migrated to Azure? So this may have been answered, but I'll just summarize it from the slide that we handled in the middle of the session here. And that is, if it's an SAP environment that you're looking to just migrate to Azure and do that migration without any version change, if it's x86 based, if it's supported by, it's an Intel chipset, I should say, it's going to be run and supported by Azure. So you could use that as a migration. We call it as is, copy that system over whole, and start capturing the benefits of the Azure cloud immediately. So that's the easiest migration, the quickest path. If you're looking to do a larger transformation, if you want to go to HANA or S4 HANA, it's really important what version you're coming from. To go to HANA, you can be at ECC 5, and you can do a technical migration from that. ECC 5 is a good, let's say almost 15 years old, so that's going to capture most customers. Going to S4, you're going to need ECC 6. So we can do migrations, direct migrations from the mainframe, from iSeries, you name it. The source is very, very wide, the capable systems that we can go from. So I hope that answered the question. It's a wide net of systems that we can migrate. This is a question that came in about midstream, and I'm glad it came in because I didn't cover it. And this is around the downtime portion. How long would it take? What's our expectation for downtime? Excuse me. So I'll just give a few examples of recent migrations we've done. One system we did a few weeks ago was an ECC environment with BW. The BW system was 2 terabytes, and the ECC system was 1.2 terabytes, so about half the size. BW came in at a 12-hour outage. That's a technical downtime, so half a day. The ECC 1.2 terabyte system was 8 hours. So keep this in perspective of going over a weekend. We would only need at most 12 hours out of that 48 hours over that weekend to actually do the repository switch. That's the SAP phase of when you do the upgrade to go to the new version. There's no way around that. You have to take the system down. But aside from that, the system's available for testing, for enabling any of the enhanced system replication that HANA and S4 provides. So we can, actually this last migration, we actually did exactly that. We enabled the SUSE system replication. It's called Performance Optimized. Please check out one of our webinars and you can learn all about it. We did that during our Go Live weekend. So we feel very confident that we can do very, very large systems within that 48 hours and provide sufficient time for testing, not only the business process, but all interfaces, and even enable enhanced system replication. So glad that question came in because I did not cover that in the slides on downtime. Question came in on project length timeline. This is about 3/4 of the way through. And again, thank you for asking it because I didn't cover that. The project timelines I would categorize as two flavors. The first timeline would be around the POC. And I'll talk specifically to S4 in this example. So S4, if you're going to put a proof of concept or a test run system to move it to Azure, that timeline is going to be estimated at 9 weeks. And the actual technical migration of that is going to be probably 2 weeks of it. And the downtime would be, estimated worst case, let's say 12 hours. That's the timeline for the migration. The 9 weeks comes from the implementation of S4. So keep in mind, we looked at the highlights of what we call our deep dive, looking at the simplification list, looking at custom code, looking at the areas that need to be re-implemented or configured, let's say that. That's where the bulk of the 9 weeks out of that, we estimate, just for the proof of concept, it's going to be a 5-week effort from the customer or the system integrator to do that work. So that's where the lion's share of the 9 weeks comes from. Now keep in mind that work, the value of that work gets captured. The investment of that time pays off when you do the production migration. Those 5 weeks aren't redone. You take the results of those 5 weeks of work and you apply that to your development environment, your copy of production environment, and then ultimately your production environment. So all in, for looking at a proof of concept, a development, a 1 or 2 test runs of production, and then doing the production migration, that end-to-end project is 27 weeks. So it's a good 6-month project to do the full landscape. Again, that's S4. That's including the implementation piece with an SI or the customer itself. Those are 2 project types. Again, that's S4. If it's as is, the project can be done in a matter of weeks. It's really the time to copy the systems over, synchronize them, and test them. That's where the lion's share of the effort is. And then for HANA, just doing a technical migration upgrade, that's going to be between the two, between a few weeks and 27 weeks. The HANA migration can be done. We've done them as fast as 2 to 3 months. I'd say probably better estimates around 4 months, just to be conservative. And that's where I think you see the value. If you're looking at doing a technical migration, you're looking at 4 months. You could do the full transformation with the application upgrade and migration in 6 months. So if you're going to spend the time to do it all. That's my recommendation, at least. And as I was describing this about the project, I forgot to mention on the downtime, that 8 hours and 12 hours, that was including the move to cloud. So that outage is going over the internet to build those target systems in the cloud. This was not on-premise to on-premise. So I'm extremely happy we've been able to perform those kind of results, doing a cloud migration, a HANA conversion upgrade, migration, and the S4 upgrade. So that covers the downtime in the project. And then the last few questions here came on the choice of target. Obviously, the focus here is on Azure and on the source. And I think I covered this in the webinar sufficiently, so hopefully it was clear. Any source is possible. So if it's on-premise, if it's hosted, if it's a private cloud, or it could be in Azure today and you want to migrate it to a different subscription or combine systems, that's something we certainly can support. So the source is, regardless where it's at, it's going to obviously depend upon a network connection and if what's available from that source to connect to Azure. So that's the primary concern. And lastly, the question is, will we do migrations for non-SAP systems? So this would be the like of if it's a third-party product. So the answer is yes. If it's going to be taxware, a BSI add-on, which is payroll taxes, any kind of third-party product that integrates to SAP, we will migrate. We will even do completely non-related SAP systems. So, for example, a Hyperion server, we see that as a system that sometimes integrates to SAP, sometimes separate. We will do the migration for that. We will even do the migration for the Office 365 tools. So if it's Exchange, if it's file servers, if it's SharePoint, we can provide best practices on the migration itself and the management of those in the Azure cloud. So certainly we can help in all those areas. So for sake of time, we're going to close out the Q&A. I see a few more questions. We will respond to you directly on those and send out emails. But feel free, if you think of any more questions, you have the contact information here on the sheet. Christian Wussman and Sam will be happy to talk to all of you. And feel free to reach out to us to say hi. And with
Excellent.
that, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks, Patrick. That was really fantastic, very informational. So just one quick note that I wanted to also make was that we are holding Protera Insight Days where we'll be covering a lot more of this information in depth Patrick will actually be presenting at those in 10 cities across the United States at Microsoft Technology Centers. So we invite you all to join those as well. We will, again, be taking a deep dive into SAP HANA and S4 HANA for Azure. Registration links can be found on our website, protera.com, and we look forward to seeing you at those future events and really, taking a deeper dive and doing some strategy sessions. We can work with you at the end of the conclusion of those half-day sessions. Well, with that, I will let everyone go. Again, really appreciate everyone taking the time to learn more about Protera, S4 HANA, Azure, and really how we can help you. So we look forward to working with you all. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.